Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 2. It's animation and lighting. And what I like to do with my animations, I like to kind of work my way backwards. I kind of do a little bit of backwards here. It'll make sense once I get into it. So right here, my perspective view, and the first thing I want to do is make a camera. And if the lights are starting to go off right around frames 70 to 75 and on up, see right here, we don't have enough space in our timelines to really do much animation. So we're going to make some more space first. Let's go to 600. And now we have a lot more area to work with. So I'm going to go to where I want my animation, where the camera actually pull back and reveal everything in the scene. So let's do right around, let's say 240. That's a nice slow pull. And I'm going to bring this back a little bit. And that looks pretty good. Let's move the moon some. I want to get more in the corner. Let's put it like right here. Alright, now I'm going to hit Control C, and that will make a camera from your perspective view. And there's our camera. It's always going to give us a camera with a target, and basically this camera is going to look at this target. So I'm going to take the target for this null. I'm going to make a selection for it first. And that way I can easily select it later on. Let's put it right here in the middle of the earth. And I'm going to turn on the auto key. Now if I move this camera right here, it'll give me a keyframe. I have a keyframe at 0 and have a keyframe all the way here at 240. And you see probably a little bit of motion. That's because of the splines. If you look at the splines, actually they're pretty straight, but we're getting movement somewhere. Right here is a little tiny bend right in here. But we'll worry about that later on. So now let's go back to frame 0. And actually, let me go back out here to this one. Now, if you look right here, this is a key mode toggle. So you can click this toggle, and it will go right in between the keys. Or if you unselect it, it will do frame steps from this point on. So just 1 frame, 2 frames. So you can easily tweak things if you need it in your animation frame by frame. But I'll leave it on for now. Let's go all the way back to here. Now I also want to make a keyframe for my target. So go to cam target, and let's just give it a little movement so everything's centered. And I'm also going to take this camera, hit E, and rotate it a little bit. Let's do it from its local axis. And a little bit of rotation like that. There's no really up and down in space. This helps to give it a little bit of float. Alright, so we got a keyframe for our camera and for our null, which is just basically a helper object. This little target right here. So yeah, we've got 2 keyframes. So now let's go back to 0 and let's move the camera closer to Earth. And looking here in the ocean down here in Mexico, let's go back to our camera target and let's move this up so we can see the United States. So we'll start for United States, and it'll pull out the target to go down, and we're revealing all this nicely. So let's go all the way to 600 and just give it a little bit of push backwards, and that way it won't just stop at the end. I'll have a little bit of motion, and just keep on rotating it this way. Give it a nice little space feel. Now if you look at this, let's go to our rotation tab in here in the curves editor. If you look down here in the rotation, we have a roll angle. I'm going to get rid of this key in the middle because I want it to be a continuous fluid motion. You could probably mess with the splines and do the same thing, but I'm just going to get rid of this. Let's delete that one, and now it'll be nice and smooth throughout the entire animation. So it'll start from here. It'll just continue to rotate, and the camera's kind of just sit here and hover in this position and have a little bit of motion, so that way we don't get bored with the image. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead right around where the lights are going out, right around here in 80, 86, and let's go ahead and check this frame out, see how it looks. Render it in the camera view. Let's go ahead and render this out. Alright, yeah, lights are going out. We still got some lights up here. That's looking pretty good. And let's go to the final one, where it's going to be right around here, and let's see how this looks real quick. That's not too bad, but I think I want the our light that's going to be the sun to be more back here. And I'm going to select the target. I don't have a target selection for that, so let's go here. Oops, right here. And that comes up. We have the spot target. And we're just going to move this up so it's more pointing up in this direction. And see this? Now, I did not mean to animate this, so just so you know, if you don't plan on animating things, make sure you clicked off auto key. So I'm going to delete that key. Let's do that again. Now if I do it, I won't put an animation keyframe there. Alright, so let's look at that real quick. Let's start here at 240. Let's see how it looks. Go back to the camera. Not bad, not bad. Looking pretty good. Let's see how it looks when we're close to it. Okay, that works. So we got a nice smooth motion out on our camera. So let's give a little bit of rotation on our planets here. We'll start with Earth and turn on auto key. Go all the way to the end. Hit E. And I'm going to rotate this direction. Because if the sun sets in the west, then I'm pretty sure the Earth would go this way. At least that's what I've been taught. And let's make that a linear curve. Sorry, not a no curve, just a linear spline on this. And that way it won't slowly start to gain speed and rotate around. Because the Earth has one nice, good, solid rotation on it. And that's going to be a little more realistic. You probably won't see it, but it'll just make you feel better to know that it's doing that. And let's take this one. I'm going to rotate this opposite direction. I'm not really sure which direction the moon rotates in. Now, if you happen to put a keyframe and you don't want it, you can take these and just slide them out to the end here, like I'm doing right there. See, now it has one here at 0 all the way to 600. So let's go back here and let's make this. It's a constant speed. So now we got motion on the Earth and we have motion on the moon, just a little bit to give it that more realistic look. That'll work. Okay, now we got all that animated. Now we're going to add some stars and we're going to add a lens flare for the sun, which is going to be right around here. So we're going to create a source for our lens flare. We're going to go over here to create and then right in here helpers, and we're just going to put a point helper right here. Let's go in our front view, undo our keyframe so it's not rotating around in our scene. It'll stay in the same spot, and that's looking pretty good. So it'll come out right around there and just kind of sit there at the end and give us a nice little shine. Now what I want to go over here to video posts, which is in the rendering and video posts. And this is where we're going to add our star field and lens flare. So we're going to add a scene event filter, or actually just a scene event, and we'll make sure it's on the camera and it's 0 to 600, the entire length of our animation, and it's also enabled. That's what people want. That looks good. And now let's add an image filter event, and this is going to be our star field. Okay, let's go to setup real quick, make sure it's on our camera, and let's just change the count to 25,000, and let's click OK. And now from this point on, instead of going to your render tab and rendering right here, we're going to be using video post for the rest of our rendering, because these two are separate from each other. So we're going to go to the running man right here, and you're actually going to go to single at first, and you want to look at which frame you're on. I'm at 204, so you want to render 204. I type in 204, hit enter, then hit render. And now it's rendering out, and there's our stars. I guess the stars are looking pretty good. Let's add a little more stars. Let's go back to our setup, and let's do 35,000. So that looks okay. Hit running man again, hit render, and boom, there we go. That's enough stars. Now for motion blur on the stars, you don't have to worry about it. They have their own built-in motion blur system, which works very nice. and it takes a little time for it to render these out. So the star's looking good. Notice how everything in here is really dark. I want to be able to see a little detail in here, so what we're going to do first before I start messing with this anymore, let's go ahead and close this out. Go to Create tab, and in here go to Lights, Standard Lights, and we're going to add a Skylight. And just put that anywhere, it doesn't matter, because basically it just gives you light from all directions. It's a nice way to add clean ambient light to your scene, and it also works in Mental Ray when you're turned on Final Gather. So let's just leave this over here, doesn't matter where it's at. Let's turn this way down, like 0.05, and have it just emit white, and let's see how that looks. Let's go back up to our render, video post, to the Running Man, and 204. Let's try this again. So there we go, add a little more ambient light in here, that way you can see some detail in the continents and all that. So that's looking pretty good. Alright, now we're going to have this particular guy right here, this point helper, is going to be our lens flare. You don't need a light for lens flares, and you can. It'll do a lens flare on anything that has an axis, and it will make the lens flare from that axis. So let's go back to a video post. Make sure this is unclicked. Add another image filter event, and we're going to go to the lens flare. And OK. Let's click on it. Go to Setup. Make sure our node source is selected, which is going to be our point helper. Go OK. And let's preview this. And there's our lens flare. And let's go ahead and tweak this. The streaks are way too strong. So let's make them a little bit, make the size a little bigger, smaller. So right around there. Bring it in some more. That's pretty good. Let's make the width more. And let's just turn down the transparency on that. A little more. Okay, that's pretty good. And let's go to our ASEC. We have a whole bunch of sets in the ASEC. So we have 2, 1, and 2. In the MSEC, we have a whole bunch of them too. We have actually 5 sets. So let's start with this one and work our way backwards. What's this one doing? That's just a glow, so we'll leave that. That's next set. That's those guys. So let's just turn that. Let's just turn that off. I don't want those. Turn that one off. I don't want those. Let's go to our next set. Let's see what we're working with here. What's this one doing? That's kind of cool. We'll leave that right around there, and let's make it a little less. Turn down some. And let's go back to our, and I want to turn on the auto sec. So let's get this on and go to our auto sec. We got 2 sets in here. Let's go to our first one, and let's change this to blue. That kind of blue looks good. And let's make the transparency way down. Let's go to our next set. Let's just delete this one. And we're going to change this to, let's change it to blue also. And we're turning transparency way down with this one too. Let's make the size a little bigger. That's looking pretty good. Let's turn transparency down some more. And let's go back to this other one. Turn that down some too. Now I really like Max's lens flares because it gives you a lot of control, and it puts it in a nice interface that you can see everything and actually how all these individual elements are working. And it's very powerful too. You can do a lot with it. And let's go to our ring. Let's make our ring less apparent. Let's drop it down, subdue it some. And there you go. That's pretty good. Let's go to our glow, and I'll make it a little more sunnish. And let's go over here and turn that down some. Let's make sure it's up. Let's just bring the inside of it so it's a little brighter on the inside. Let's make this nice and yellow. And bring this in. That's looking pretty good. Turn the size up. Alright, let's see, we got our point. Now see how this looks. Go back to our Running Man, hit render. And there we go. Alright, well we're looking pretty good here. We got a nice sun. Everything looks like a good point where we can start rendering this out and exporting it. So join me next time, and I'm going to go over how we export all these individually, and then we're going to take those renders and put them into After Effects and finish up our animation. Well, if you like what you're seeing, definitely like the video. Visit me on Facebook, and you can post any questions there. Until next time, peace out.